C'est toujours Yves Kenao qui revient. Cette fois-ci, pour vous dire que Tempo Afrique TV vous offre plus de 4000 chaînes de télévision. Les chaînes européennes, les chaînes américaines, les chaînes asiatiques, les chaînes africaines. À un prix imbattable. À un prix imbattable. Tenez-vous bien. $185 pour 12 mois, inclus le box. Alors, où est-ce que vous pouvez trouver mieux que ça si ce n'est pas sur Tempo Afrique TV? Mesdames, Messieurs, appelez seulement le 612 804 0295 et vous serez servi. Vous serez agréablement surpris de voir plus de 4000 chaînes de télévision rouler sur votre écran comme ça et vous choisissez laquelle vous voulez. Alors mesdames, n'hésitez pas. N'hésitez surtout pas et ne faites pas compter. Prenez votre téléphone, prenez-le tout de suite et appelez le 612, le 804, le 02 95. Nous sommes là, ici à Tempo TV, pour rendre votre vie simple et agréable. Alors, saisissez l'occasion donc. $185 pour toute une année, pour 12 mois, inclus le box. Quoi de mieux que ça?
Good evening. This is Tempo Afrique TV by Africans, for Africans and people of African descent on the continent and around the globe. Welcome to our weekly show, What's Up Africa, Que fait l'Afrique? I'm Prof. Desiree Balubi, a linguist and communication specialist at Norfolk State University in Virginia, USA. Please join me today in welcoming a special guest from the Rainbow Republic of South Africa, Dr. Ladislas Prosper Agbesi, Chairman of the Pan-African Business Forum and Chairman of the Alliance for Sustainable Democracy in Africa. Dr. Agbesi is a native of Benin who founded Large Group 17 in 2001 in Ghana to accelerate development on the African continent. Today, Large Group Investment Company has 5 worldwide offices, that is in Benin, in Ghana, Germany, the US, and South Africa. Dr. Agbesi has a background in risk management. He studied business administration at the Institute of Management Studies in Accra from 1993 to 1995 and received training from various risk management institutes. Before launching his own consultancy firm, Dr. Agbesi worked as a risk manager for Maasai developers and received several awards for his exceptional performance. It's a privilege to interview him today on Pan-Africanism and the Pan-African Business Forum, which I will hereafter be calling either Pan-African Business Forum or PABF. The expected outcome today, hopefully, we actually wish that by the end of this interview, our viewers would know what Dr. Agbesi and his organization stand for, what they are contributing to Africa's resilience and relentless efforts to dig itself out of the existing deep holes and pockets of poverty, while paradoxically, African homes and schools are built on mines of uranium, cobalt, gold, and diamond. Welcome to the show, Dr. Agbesi.
It is a privilege, and I'm delighted to be on your program. And first of all, I would like to greet the viewers all over the globe, US, Africa, and all parts of the world. And I'm humbled to be part of your program. Thank you.
I'm sure our viewers are also happy to have you here on our show. And first question to you, Dr. Agbesi, is about defining PABF at the Pan-African Business Forum. And my question is it a political party? Is it a group of professional lobbyists or a business think tank, Dr. Agbesi? What is it?
I'm glad you asked this question, because most of the time, many people ask the questions about what is Pan-African Business Forum. It is a coalition for the reinforcement of the foreign direct investment for the continent. This derived from the like-minded, underprivileged people from the continent, which through two advocacy. One is reforming the private sector, and the second one is dealing with a little bit kind of issue of political and underprivileged people. But the greatest part is that there was a call in some of us at a very early age, and when we were still coming out from school in Ghana, and we see a vision for our continent. By the way, as you could recall, Africa is going through a different kind of a transformation, which many other great economies have gone through. It has been expected that the continent will reach by 2050, by the indicators, that we will reach the GDP of 29 trillion ahead of China and America, due to certain kind of advantage which our continent have had. But this will not get us there if we don't come into certain kind of robust reform in our continent. And we must thank also the Pan-African Business Forum re-emphasizes on some of the work other multinationals have done, the World Bank, the IMF, the African Union, European Union, and strengthen them. And there's one of the best one which the former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, have stipulated, which is called the peer review mechanism, which is quite very important at the time of coming to power by the South African government since 1994, which have enabled many African countries to reform their setup in terms of what we call the local content. So the Pan-African Business Forum, in a nutshell, is about driving extensive policies which will attract direct foreign investment, and also looking at the advocacy of policy and a better place for our African people. We do it through seminars, we invite professors, we work, we talk to African governments, we try to say, we are no more in the age of where people throw stone. The time of Mandela, people in Cuba throwing stone to talking about revolution, we are looking at a different kind of view of revolution in our country. We are talking about the economic revolution. The economic revolution we are looking at is to coerce with the Western partners, where we will enable ourselves through partnership and build a better Africa.
That's interesting. You're using the word revolution. Some people are really allergic to that word revolution. But yeah, you put it in a context. And my question to you is, how do you define actually your brand of Pan-Africanism? Because you put Pan-Africanism in this Pan-African Business Forum. So when I hear Pan-African Business Forum, I hear business and I hear Pan-Africanism. What's your brand of Pan-Africanism? It seems that there are so many brands out there. You know, it has many colors, it has many shapes, but you know, what's the shape of your Pan-Africanism, and what do you put in it? And how does one move from that Pan-Africanism, to being a member of your organization?
First of all, yeah. First of all, you must know that this is a like-minded, very young entrepreneurs in the continent. To join the Pan-African Business Forum, you need to show us a balance sheet of $5 million US. you have to be affiliated with us. We need to know you very well. But the difference between us, our Pan-Africanism, is that we are not in the rhetoric of liberation movement, communist style. We are in basically looking at a better future for Africa, the golden age of Africa. You know, we are passionate about seeing a better Africa by 2050. Because our differences between the Pan-Africanists I want to see is that I want to see a continent where by 2055, the top 100 billionaires come from Africa. The best infrastructure is in Africa. The women have the better education than all over the world. And the agriculture is booming very well. You see, if we come back to those contests, because our Pan-Africanism does not talk about a revolution where you go on the street to fight. We want to collaborate the Western powers. We want to work with the European Union, America, everybody, to build a sustainable economy. You cannot want to be a strong economy and push it away from your mind. That's why the era of Mandela and co is gone. The era of Benin, where I come from, where people were talking about revolution and all, is gone. Yes, the sentiment in Africa is still in the mind of people talking about revolution. Let us categorize it in two ways. You see, the Africa we want today is Africa where we will provide a better healthcare for each and every one, education for everyone, infrastructure for everyone. If you look at the landscape which have achieved so far, and through thanks to the IMF and the World Bank, through the strata adjustment program, they've come in from 2002 till 2009, and looking at early 2013, you can see that there is a great progress in Africa, where the public debt of many African countries have been one of the best in the world. The growth has been there, and we started seeing the first time the growth, which is between a 6% of 30% of the African countries, and 4% between 5 and 6% of the African countries. And which was anticipated that by 2025, the continent will be reaching the middle income economy. But nevertheless, the COVID have came in there. We will talk about it. But what we want to see is that if China have go through that prowess, which they were doing in 1973, and we started in 2000. And by 2007, they changed their landscape of their economy. From 2007, they came back to talk about the liberal economy. What changed? What stopped us in Africa to start discussing a different kind of thinking mindset to realign ourselves in terms of the prospect where we want to reach, instead of talking about capitalism? We are not, our organization don't fight about capitalism, because we know the only way to build our continent, we need capital.
Yeah, in order to build our country and Africa in general, we need capital. But we don't just have our capital in terms of money, finances, but we also need human capital, don't we? And let me go back to your brand of Pan-Africanism. Unless I misheard you, I didn't hear you properly. You say that in your forum, you don't allow in people unless they have billions, right? So you were talking about billions or millions or something. That's all about a lot of money, isn't it? So if that's the case, is your Pan-Africanism only for the wealthiest? How about people like me, like, Alpha, Omega, Lambda, in the rural areas that can belong in your forum, they can, partake, and they can be part of your forum. Is that true?
Not really. We have 3 categories of people. Permanent members, and we have people by affiliation, and some of our people which come with a certain kind of integrity and some kind of, they bring something on the table. So the permanent people which are part of our organization are people with substance coming from the private sector background. We deal mostly about private sector, and the private sector is keen because they play the bridge between government and the private sector. the public, government and the public. So the private sector is the engine of the growth. So we need those people with a certain kind of a sentiment and acumen. The other people, we still accept some people with certain kind of background, know-how, their network, because we are a conglomerate of everywhere in the continent, from south to the north, the east to the west, and everybody is part of it. Let me reassure you of something. Pan-African Business Forum, the only thing we don't want to see in our organization, we are apolitical. We take anything which is going to really build a better Africa, we stand behind it. Sometimes we have certain kind of position when it comes from external issues which will affect our business, like certain countries, like what is happening in when they talk about sanction in some of the African countries. Those things affect our economy. That's why we come in and we come and really fight for it and bring ourselves in it and show our face and fight for it. Because when you talk about, as a banker, when you talk about a foreign direct investment, there are certain kind of indicators, model, which is are very keen in assessing how you invest in a region. There's a regional risk, there's a country risk, and there is the pattern of the political risk. And if we don't fight it, it affects our foreign direct investment. If you look at how do you call it, 2021, although there was how do you call it, the pandemic, the World Bank, through his two agencies, IDA and IBRDA, have put in 10 billion because of the contingency of the COVID, in which some of them, we call it in French, the DTS, the special drawing system through the donor agency with the G8 and the G20 have come in to support us. So we fight strongly any kind of sanction in all forms. We've been successful from South Africa point of view. We've done it from many countries, from Egypt, from Mali, from everywhere in the continent, and we are going to continue fighting it. We have alliances from everywhere, from the United Nations, European Union, from United States of America. We believe that the only way the continent can move is to remove the stereotype which can be resilient, can stop the growth of our economy. When there's a good economy, we will live our vision of the golden age of business.
Yeah. Sorry, you're talking about living the golden age of business, and you're talking about being apolitical. I take that, with a grain of salt, because you can't be in business and stay away from politics, because you say you got to avoid countries. You don't want to invest in countries that are risk countries, and they are risk countries for certain reasons, and in most cases because of injustice, because of lack of democracy, because of political reasons, you see. So I took that with a grain of salt. But let's move on. You mentioned IMF and the World Bank, and you were referring to IMF and World Bank as if they were benefactors. I don't think they're benefactors. And I remember when the IMF and the World Bank imposed the so-called structural adjustment of our country, and the discourse, the speech of Laboe. Remember, and they were saying every country, at least, African countries should go democratic. Democracy is a good thing, right? It is a good thing. But through IMF and World Bank and the policies, a number of people actually died. A lot of things collapsed. A civil servant. We still have the impact on our people, on the economy, all over the place. Isn't it time for us to do our own structural adjustment? Do we still have to wait for the IMF and the World Bank? I know Ghana, where you did your schooling, and I also did part of my undergrad in Ghana as well, and I lived there for a while. And the current president, and you listen to his speeches and his attitude toward the IMF and World Bank, is fighting to help develop Ghana, which was really a trajectory, a way that people before him, government officials, J.J. Rawlings, and so on and so forth, paved the way. What do you say about that? Should we actually, talk about IMF and the World Bank in those terms?
Thank you very much. And most of the time, the mistake many Africans make, and most of the people make, is that we never see the good thing the IMF and the World Bank have done to our continent. You see, most of the time, an economy is like a sick person in a bed which have to go to a doctor to be diagnosed. And there's something we call in French, which we call prophylaxis. So when they come to you, they apply some kind of antibiotics for you, which will fight some of the diseases, some of the virus you have on it. Those viruses are some of the contingency, which are some of the bad government of our countries since 1990, 70, they created. The IMF and the World Bank have done great things. I'll tell you why. I'm not the greatest, the little one I've been part of the sub-region and looking at the report in terms of the World Bank and sub-region and advising certain kind of multilateral institutions, is the fact that, if you look at the Eurobond of Maastricht, today, from 2013, 14, 15, 11, 12, most of the countries who qualify for the Eurobond are African countries. More than 34 African countries qualify for the Eurobond. Why? Because the criteria of the Eurobond is about how you manage your public debt, your growth, and your deficit. And during the structure adjustment, what we managed to put in perspective for the African countries is that because they are heavily indebted, you prescribe a special a model for them, which keep them for 7 years, 3 years, and you re-evaluate it. And after you re-evaluate, like the doctor, he prescribed the antibiotic for you and re-evaluate it. I know it's not easy for us. Some of the African countries, which is a part of how to call it, corruptions, many corruptions, and they've mismanaged the economy, the public funds and everything. They will not take it easy because the World Bank who said you cannot borrow more on the international market. We will keep you under prescription for 3 years, and you use the revenue you make, and but you will not pay us. This is what we call the structure adjustment, which have helped them. And through that one, they've helped many African countries to realign themselves with their public debts, And that is why the report of the World Bank in 2013 and 2005 have come to support it. And one of the greatest things you can see is that after 2006, you look at our own country, which is Benin. We were the first country to qualify for the Millennium Challenge Account, the Millennium Challenge Account in Africa, because of the way the country, because the Millennium Challenge Account is also in the prospect of how you manage the public debts and everything. African people need to understand that there is only way how you manage the public debt. It is quite critical. So the World Bank, we have a certain kind of appendix of the World Bank, which may not be, the debt is too much. That's why you have a good government, you can renegotiate those kind of debt. That's why you have, in some countries, you have Ministry of Finance and you have the Ministry of Budget. You put those team together, you go and sit down with the World Bank. It's up to the skills of the people you put in your financial team. They will go and sit down, and with a proper business plan, they will go and renegotiate your debt. Each country, I've seen it in Ghana. That's why Ghana is doing well. If you were talking about Ghana, Ghana benefited a lot from they were under HEPIC. highly indebted under the structural adjustment program. When they came out of it, they benefited so much reliefs from the World Bank and other multilateral institutions, financial institutions, which have helped the economy to be one of the stable, if not better managed in West Africa today. We need to also ought to accept that the World Bank is not all is not bad about it. I am an African. I've been part of many kind of a team which have had a meeting with the World Bank, the IMF, the multilateral, and all those things. I know exactly what they want, but if you have the right people in your team, you can still renegotiate a better one.
Very good. Yes, you know exactly what they want, and we also need to know what we want. That's very important. And before you go to doctors such as IMF and the World Bank, you certainly need to have something which we will call the first aid kit. If you don't have any first aid kit and you are traveling hundreds of miles before you can find a hospital that will treat you from your, I don't know if it is guinea worms or you have malaria or whatever you call that kind of disease, you die halfway, even, just a few miles away from home. So I just want you to know that whatever I'm saying, it's not just a debate with you, it's what our viewers are saying, is that the kind of questions people who won't have time, to ask you directly are asking. So I'm just the spokesperson for those who cannot talk today. But ladies and gentlemen, viewers, jump in anytime. You see the number on our screen. Call us and ask Dr. Agbesi any questions about this important topic we're discussing today. And now, talking, politics, because as I believe you're saying you don't like sanctions, and your forum or your organizations will be fighting sanctions. And while we're saying that, let's talk about Mali, Guinea, Chad, Ethiopia, and Sudan, Northern Sudan more specifically. And my question to you is, what are some homemade and Pan-African organizations like yours? What are you doing to help reconcile people in those countries among themselves, within their own national borders, and with their regional and or continental institutions? Dr. Agbesi.
Yeah. Listen, I need to do some kind of retrospective in terms of where we are from 1960, when some of us were not born, till 1972. There was some kind of disturbance in the continent, where there was many coups with many military people inexperienced, which come to power till 90 and all those things. And with the help of big multinational, from end of 90s, we started seeing a new age of democracy. Democracy came in, we brought in civilians, which came to do their time. And from mid of the 90s, 2000, 2010 going, we started realizing that the civilians are becoming more, not to say the management, the corruption is becoming very high in those kind of perspective. You look at it become more nepotism. You look at them and we were confronted with the different kind of issues in the new age where we are today. The issue is about terrorism, instability, issue of corruption with the civilians. So the new age of democracy have given them the pattern to run our economy. But we realized that that democracy gradually started failing. Why many countries are going through why, if we have to ask ourselves, why coup left and right, Ethiopia, everywhere, why? And why this thing is happening? We must ask ourselves a question. Is there not something wrong happening?
Of course.
So, definitely. So, we need to look at it in a different perspective and sit down with the two parties. Instead of blaming the military like we used to blame them in the 70s, we need to sit down with them and tell them that, what do you want? Let us work together. Because the time of when we dealt with Samuel Doe or Charles Taylor, it will never happen again. Where the African Union use the ECOWAS use his forces to go and remove a president, it will never happen. Let us forget about it. It will never happen again. What is happening is that the world have changed. We are advocating that dialogue between the two parties. We are not supporting one party. We are saying, in terms of how do you call it? Let me use three scenarios. Briefly, Mali. What is happening in Mali? What we saw a few days ago is going to embrace the West Africa countries. I'm not sure whether Benin will survive in the 7 years because the insecurity is going to be very high. Burkina Faso may disappear. And some part of Guinea will disappear. Ivory Coast, people cannot go because people could not see the insecurity. It's not about having the best gun. It's to sit down and talk with the people. Right. It's to sit down and have a discussion with the people. It's not that putting sanction on them. Sanction never solve any problem. We saw, how do you call it, Zimbabwe. How can you sanction Mugabe and the people of Zimbabwe suffer so much? Why do you sanction an individual and the people in the country suffer so much? This is what we need to sit down and discuss with the multilateral. And let me go back and give our viewers a scenario. The democracy, the type of democracy we are trying to sell to Africa, we are not ready for it at the moment. We are not ready. We are not ready.
What is that type of democracy?
That's why we need to sit down and redefine it. Because you see, all the big economy today, who is talking about democracy? They all went through 200 years of dictatorship. America, the first president of America is a general. France, the biggest, the one who bring the country into democracy is De Gaulle. You go to China. You go to China. You go to Russia. You go to England. You go to Germany. Who are the people who change the landscape of we need to consider how we leverage with the military people instead of blaming them, because it's about a dialogue we will have with them which will make it a completely different. There's no way democracy is going to really make any change today. In the case of Sudan, you have we are looking at a new leadership in the continent. You have somebody like Emiti, a young military guy, and people don't just talk about the good thing those people are doing in the country. When people hear military, people negative. Everybody, when you hear military, people just become negative. But let us go and do retrospection of what those people have done to those countries. When you look at the military in Sudan, 2019, when the civilian couldn't bring the democracy to place, they went against their own colleague, which is Bashir. They removed him and called for the civilians to come. They give the basis for democracy to start. Why do you want to remove them from the ongoing discussion of the country? Why do you want to make them look like they are the bad people? And at the same time, they part of a government which the prime minister in Sudan, he's an appendix of World Bank. Like now, this is some of the things I need to tell you. Appendix of World Bank and IMF. He came in, he want to apply without taking care of the social geopolitics of the country. Do you understand? Everything was given. We need to start allowing the military people. They are not bad like they. We need to talk to them. We need to sit down with them. We need to, if we radicalize them. I want to ask one question to everybody.
Yeah.
If you look at the military people, for instance, in Sudan, they're fighting the terrorists over there, the immigration over there, the stability of the region, Egypt, South Sudan, Chad, Libya, and everything. Do you want to, what do you want? Is it stability or democracy? Democracy, which is a word on a paper. Or you want a stable region? For us in Africa, we want a stable region. Because that is what helps us to have a better risk component for our continent. Do you understand me? Because when we have a stable and less, these people have been fighting, how do you call it, anti-immigration in that region. The civilian don't fight, cannot secure us. We need to start having a dialogue with the military people. The new age of democracy need to start from that point of view. Collaboration with the military people. It's sad to see what is happening with Mali. What Mali is going through today, we are going to support them. We'll find a way to raise capital for them, the people of Mali. I know very well that President Ouattara never met it. I know him very well. He's a Pan-Africanist. I know because I don't want to, in West Africa, talk about some of the other presidents. I know President Ado Kufuor also never really meant it. And I know in their own hearts, they never meant it. They want a better negotiation. And I know, I can predict here today, they will go to the table and renegotiate with Mali. They will never allow this to degenerate because this war will never work. It will not be like 20 years ago where you go to Sierra Leone and take a Charles Taylor, it will never happen again. So the ECOWAS must know that we are just talking. You fight for 20 years, like, how do you call it, Kabul. And what is going to happen? Because the people, we are radicalizing the people in that region. Niger. And soon, Niger will disappear. The president will run away. I'm telling you what is going to happen. Because the radicalization in the region is going to be strong. People need to stop it quickly and come to the negotiation table. So that the Pan-Africanists come into terms of dialogue. In Sudan, how can you want to sanction military people when they brought democracy? It's uncalled for. You understand me? When these military people have helped and doing many things in that region for the multinational, why on earth we want to do that? So this is some of the discussion the new age need to look at. Not that the civilian always want to, because they have affiliation with the US, other places, everybody want to portray everybody negative. Mali, Guinea, Sudan, and people need to sit down on the table and have a discussion with them. And I think there is going to be a new strategy of democracy.
Right.
It's going to happen because many other countries are going to fall soon. Many countries is going to fall in West Africa under the military because the radicalization will be so big and the people cannot, because it will become like a religion. We're talking about we are talking about Boko Haram. If the whole country, if we don't stop this kind of radicalization, we are going to have 30% of those population radicalized into Boko Haram with terrorists. Yeah.
Right. Dr. Agbesi, I hear you. What you're saying is clear, and you're saying it loud and clear. But the question that I have for you is, what's the difference between the civilians and the military? What is the difference? What makes the military? What makes them superheroes? What makes them, turn into better leaders of our countries. And you said that they brought about democracy, which I doubt. The one thing that most people would agree with you on is negotiation, because it's part and parcel of African culture. And you know, under the trees kind of debate that in our traditional areas, traditional villages, that's what we're born into. We're born to see the elders and meet under the tree and the public square and then have a debate. It's about negotiation. It's never about fighting, about taking up guns, arms, and destroying anything at all. And to me, there's no difference between the civilians and the military. And the only difference is just give a civilian a gun and you turn him into a military. What does that make that person acting more democratically than the one that has no gun?
Thank you very much. And you touch a very serious part of our conversation. There's one thing we all need to know. I happen to be a child of one of the prominent custom officer from Benin, and I always recollect the discipline of my father, Emile Félicien Agbesi. He's a man of discipline, because in military people, the fundamental about them is about discipline, understanding the order. The 65% is for them to receive order and act on it.
There you go.
But the civilian, the difference is that he will try to talk about democracy, my right, my right. You see, the problem we are having in Africa today is that we are not ready for this democracy. Any economy, because you have 50% of very poor countries in Africa. And if you really want to move them to the middle income economy, you need to have a strong hand on them. It's not about democracy. Democracy will never bring them to that level. There are two things for them, because where there's a poverty and you allow them to have their rights, you never have a proper discipline and grow an economy. People need to have it tough, because when the poor man, I'm an African, and a privileged guy, have the right to talk, he misuses it. That is why we are still where we are since 1960. Africa need to have a strong leaders, and the only people who have a bit background of that is the military people. I'm not saying that they've got everything, because if you look at the pattern of some of the economy I just mentioned to you, in France, for them to benefit the democracy of 200 years and everything, you know their history. You know how the military was, you know that. You know in America, you know this history where the best crook were in America. The best crook were everywhere in Europe. They have to deal with them. They have to deal with them, because they couldn't have allowed them to have their rights. This is the problem we have in South Africa today. The criminal have so much rights. You need to move that pattern from the African context if we want to meet the Millennium Development Goal of 2050 of 29 trillion GDP ahead of China and America. We are not ready for that kind of democracy they are bringing to us. We need strong men, strong people to run our economy. It is gone those days where we're still talking about democracy. We will talk about democracy after 90 years. The way things are going, I don't want to talk about some of the government in Africa who have used it for their own interests, for their own personal distance. But if you look at a country where 60% is underdeveloped, you have to make sure, because education is one thing, and you want to give him a right to make a choice. You can't give a right for him to make a choice when you know what is right for him. Do you understand? It is quite critical. Where we are going in the continent need to become something completely different. We are not ready for that democracy. They are selling that from all over the world. I am aspiring to lead in my country. I'm not saying I'm going to be a dictator. I'm not saying I'm going to do what the person there is doing. But I just know that if I am there, it's not going to be easy. I need to work together with the military people, put some kind of a strength in place, and put some kind of discipline in place, because without discipline, Africans don't understand anything. Corruption is that the guy have a corruption, he's still going to court. It's in South Africa. People steal money, they go to court for 10 years. How can you punish them? Because the law allows that. Did you understand me?
Right.
We need this period of a coerce with the military to bring some sanity into our new direction in Africa.
Right. I believe there will never be a democracy, whatever definition you are assigned to the word democracy, whether you call it the Western or the the Western definition or the African definition of democracy. There will be no democracy without human rights. We have without rights and obligations, right? If you're entitled to something, then you have to do something in return as well. And I believe there will be no democracy without the rule of law in any place, even in the time memorials in Africa where we had kingdoms. Even the kings and queens knew something about human rights. Right? They knew something about it. And I hope you're not advocating for a military regime all over Africa to bring about democracy. And I hope you're not saying that we have to go through what Europe went through, the Cromwell in England, the Bismarck in Germany, and the de Gaulle, in recent era, and through de Gaulle, we know what we're suffering from, that kind of policy that the French actually imposed on us. And we're still talking about the Francophone Africa, which is kind of a pain in the neck, I'm not necessarily blaming the current government of France for it, but that is part of history. But it seems to be still in progress, because it's the mindset. Okay, so yes, if we don't want their democracy, we got to come up with our own model of democracy. And tell me, in a nutshell, what role should we assign to the military in Africa?
You see, that's a great question. You see, in the context of, let me go out of the way a little bit. You see, we say it in French, la démocratie en panne. Yeah, the democracy is in a serious difficulties as we speak today, because are we ready? Can we apply all these things? You see, the context of the role, like in West Africa, before the end of the year, there's going to be possibility of a few other countries which will fall under the military in West Africa. 3 countries, probably 2. Are going to fall under it.
Are you predicting that?
You can write it down. It's going to happen. Okay. But if people don't go quickly and start talking about dialogue because of the radicalization, do you understand? I'm just saying it in terms of radicalization. Do you understand?
Right.
But for sure, 2 countries are going to go through that, because what is happening in Mali is tempting the other countries. Do you understand me? The role we want the military to play is that their functionality is to restore law and order. That's the fundamental of the military people in each country, in any democracy, and any constitution in any country. But most of the time, the civilians abuse that perspective, and the military people become the referee between the government and the people. That's why they come in and they become like a saviors to come to save the population most of the time. But we are going through certain kind of you see, there is a pattern. There's what we call the product life cycle. There is a certain kind of stages. The pattern of the military will be there for a couple of 20 years. It will change. It will move away. and we'll have a different kind of, because the military is going to be reformed, the police is going to be reformed. If those things are reformed in terms of the way they are going to be, we will not have what we have today. But if they are still the way it is, the only solution for the crime population today, who does not have any other person to talk to, is the military. And that's why they are there to hear and come in, and the population go about them. So in a nutshell, what is very important as a role for the military is to play the role of the barometer. And for them, if they can come in, because we are in a transition to a better democracy, they should take us to that level.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for answering that question. I hope the viewers heard your response. Please react whether you agree or not. Ask questions, and Dr. Agbesi will be more than happy to reply. Now, let's talk about this. This is serious. I dug into what you are doing personally, your organization, and you tend to be, in the case of the Sudan, for example, you're saying you're inviting the U.S. Senate, for example, you're giving them ideas, what they might do, what they might not do. And so when we have problems in Africa, why call on the U.S. Senate, foreign or international organization outside of Africa? If it's regional, why not ECOWAS? If it's continental, why not the AU? And should Africa not be for Africans first? That's the fundamental question. And what do you respond to some of our viewers who may be saying that one major European problem that has an African solution is lack of raw materials and natural resources to feed Europe's industries and boost their economies to the detriment of Africa?
You see, I try to, first of all, let me answer for the first questions in terms of Sudan. Remember that our objective as a Pan-African Business Forum is reinforcing business in the continent, make sure that the country risk, the regional risk, is protected for the betterness of foreign direct investment, because we are looking forward for the Millennium Development Goal in 2050, which is 29 trillion ahead of China and America. So wherever we find a certain kind of discrepancies in terms of coming from the U.S. government to try to affect, because when you look at the World Bank and the financial institutions take lead from, unfortunately, take lead from the sanction from the U.S., which is quite very important. And our job was to go back to them and tell them, why can't we listen to them? And I have an opportunity to talk to some of the people in the U.S. I have a discussion with them, and that the idea here is that if you put a sanction on the people, first of all, the people or the military, you radicalize the country, you have worse situation. Are you solving the problem, or you are creating more problems? That's the first thing. The second thing is that why can't we set up an investigation team to understand what the civilians are doing, what other people are doing over there? Because we can blame the military people without knowing, are they really the cause of what is happening in Sudan? I'm not taking a side, I'm just asking. Let us have, we can't just say a media from international media talking about stories. That's why one of the areas where Pan-African Business Forum invested is that we need to start talking about old stories. Not somebody else to come and talk our story for us. Because Sudan, the military people, nobody ever heard them. They never have a word. They never have an ear. So we hear the part of the civilians. People on the roadside, people they kill, because the military people normally don't talk. Like Mali people, we don't talk. Guinea, they don't talk. So who is listening to one side? So I think I'm so grateful, because it was the day before President Biden did a great thing for democracy in Africa, and we appeal on him, and I think he listened to us as a Pan-African Business Forum, and we have extensive discussion with some of them in the U.S. Not because it is It is vital to have that discussion in the progress. And we are continuing doing it with them because we believe that sanction is bad. We have seen it. Sanction, we Pan-African businessmen, we want to work with the multilateral. We don't want to have the rhetoric of the Africans. You see, I was many years ago in Paris. And I like to use your forum. I don't want some of our friends to be angry with me. We need to start rethinking our sentiment of Pan-Africanism.
What does that mean?
It means that when we start talking about, I'm touching on your last question, that raw material.
Yeah.
Let us stop that dialogue. We should never talk that way. Since 1960, what have we done ourselves with the little one we have with ourselves? Right. Let us do our own retrospective of who we are.
Yeah.
What have we been able to do with the people staying in Europe? They are taking the Europeans RMs every month, and they talk about that. They must come to Africa and farm. We have 450 arable land out of the 3 billion land, which is for the hectares to feed the well. By the standard of the United Nations, they are looking for 72 million. People sit down and talk about raw material. What did we do? It's not about the people to come and do for us. We can do it ourselves.
Yes.
I came from nowhere in Ivory Coast with my partner. We built a telecom, the first fiber optic. No one came to us and did it. We did it ourselves. In Ghana, the former minister of energy, Kosi Indum, is there. Everybody is listening to us. We went to him. We created our factory where nobody in 2003. It took us 5 years. We did it. Why Africans stop blaming the Europeans, the Western? Let's start thinking of how we solve our own problem.
Right.
It is. For me, that language, I don't want to hear it. We have land. If you can't do anything with the raw material, farm. If you can't do anything, 5 bankers stay together. Today we have one of the best multilateral. The financial institutions are many in the continent. If you defend a very good case, they'll give you money. We can still go through and raise capital and do something. So the issue with European coming to take our raw materials and all those kind of things, I don't want to buy it. I just know that, yes, there's a certain part of truth into it, but I want people to know that we need to change our way of thinking. We, the new generation I represent, I don't want to blame the Western for my problem. I want to blame myself. I want to see what I can do for my continent. What can I do? Not to blame other people. This is the
that makes sense. That makes sense. Stop blaming other people and think in terms of what you can do for your own country, what you can do for Africa, and in terms of having raw materials exported abroad, use it here, create industries, and make things that you need. And as people say, produce what you consume and consume what you produce. We're running out of time here, but I still have a couple of questions to ask. And let's be concise and quick about answering them. The PABF, which is the Pan-African Business Forum, is calling for free and fair election in 2023 in Sudan, right? What, according to your organization, what should Africa do to make sure that that happens in the Sudan, not just in the Sudan, but also in Senegal and across the board in all African countries? You have 2 minutes to answer.
I think we need to give a chance and look at what the best, if the military said that they want to do election in 2023, let us hold them on that their word and take it from there. And work together with them, with the civilians, so that they become, at the end of the day, is to protect the country. It's not about individual. Let us work better so that we have a better economy for our people.
Thank you. That's a good answer. But and now the next question is, and as you can tell, you've listened to yourself, you've listened to me, and both of us talking, and the viewers will be saying that we are talking more about politics than we are about policies and concrete actions for growth and drastic improvement in the sectors of business, home trade among African countries, national economies, agriculture, health, and education above all. What do you believe could be done or is being done along those lines, Dr. Agbesi?
Okay, I'll tell you something. There's something which is doing. We are getting there in the continent. You know, like I always make reference to the World Bank and the IMF and everything. There is a pattern which have shown sign that we are doing the right thing in a continent in terms of the education, where we were by 2000 and today. There is a growth of in terms of more than 7 to 27% of people have been educated in our continent, and that is a trajectory which is very good. We are seeing, and in terms of the agriculture sector, we've seen a trajectory which are booming very, very well. Not too much, because you know very well that the water is going to be the essential in the world in the next 25 years. Water is going to be the real commodities in the world, and the land is going to be the second to water. So Africa is going to be the bed of all those two things. So we have been working with many kind of institutions. That's why one of them, which there is something called AGWA, which come from America, and the Millennium Challenge account. So we, Pan-African Business Forum, have a position. We are not saying AGWA is not too much good, but it doesn't benefit us. The only people it benefits, if you go to South Africa, is the motor industry. The people who have export of goods to America have exoneration, and some Chinese companies which come to Africa and produce from Africa and send it to America who benefit. How many Africans have resources to invest into a mass production and send it to America and benefit from it? So that's why we embrace the President Bush initiative of a Millennium Challenge account, which give a leverage to many African countries, where my country, my great country Benin, was the first to qualify for it. For us to have, we are in a range of a couple of billion today, because good business plan, rule of law, setting kind of indicators in terms of the private sector, education, and all those things. Benin is one of the model till certain kind of days in terms of that, and we qualify for that. And I look at the team when we were working on it, and the people who have done it, that the Africans need to look at a new model for where we are going. The model which will integrate financial inclusion, and a vision together, so that we can reach our Millennium Development Goal. Because Africa, we want to see, need to have three most important things. It's about education, agriculture, and healthcare.
Thank you. Yes, long live Africa, long live Benin. There's no place like home, where we came from. Long live Benin. And my last question for you, which will be your way of concluding, your responses to all my questions. To what extent would you say that your organization, Pan-African Business Forum, is beneficial to Africa? Say, for example, Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Ghana, and South Africa, where you are currently based. Do you have any recommendations? And that will be your concluding statement, Dr. Agbesi.
You see, our organization, we don't make too much noise, but we are very essential in the continent. We have contributed to regional integration, multinational, and we've done a lot of job with United Nations, European Union, and African Union, and African Development Bank, and many of the. Our aim is not to be showing a flag of the Pan-African Business Forum. In South Africa, we were part of the AGWA issue with South Africa, the Minister for Trade and Industry, when it was becoming very critical. So we step in and support the Minister of Trade and Industry, which is Rob Davis that time. And we were able to achieve a great result in that level with the chicken issue, where the government of America was going to sanction South Africa on AGWA. We were one of the single entity which went far to stand with them. We were in a World Bank in New York. We were together with them. We stand, we have a discussion with the multinational from BRICS. We come with a strategy to counter it, and we got the negotiation because Rob Davis was doing something very great in the bilateral. So when you come to some of the African countries in terms of crafting a better reform, we've been part and parcel of all of them, including Benin, which is our country. If you talk about many other reform which has happened in that country over there, although people don't see it, we are one of the pioneers behind it from many government till now. Many things has changed over there because we were able to do it. We are passionate about seeing a better Africa, better country, better people, great country, great continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, we're passionate about Africa. The new hope is still alive. We've got to keep it alive. Thanks to people like you, thanks to the work that people are doing on a daily basis on the ground, be they military, civilians, students, everybody, okay? Everybody. We thank you for what you're doing. We should never give in. We should never give up. Thank you for joining us. And let me conclude the show by saying, dear friends and viewers of our show, thank you for being loyal and being a part of this enriching 60-minute interview with Dr. Agbesi. We're really grateful. But now, before I close this session, I wish to remind you of the following. And I'm also talking to you, Dr. Agbesi. Tempo Africa TV will soon be on satellite. So please don't put off supporting us financially through GoFundMe.com, and it's on the screen. There are also details that you can see on our website, okay? And also WhatsApp Africa, which is my show, Kefel Afrique, on a weekly basis on Thursday, also solicits donations to annually reward and stimulate excellence, innovations, and inventions annually. I'm proud of Dr. Agon. You see, his studies have proven to be successful. Somebody actually presented as their dissertation topic, and they did clinical studies. I think they've already reached phase 2. They will be moving to phase 3. So we want not just Beninese and people from Burkina Faso, where the studies and the doctorate dissertation was successfully defended, but we want all African countries through Pan-Africanism and the Pan-African Business Forum to embrace what we produce locally. And when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to remedy, about remedy for COVID-19, you can spit on it if it works. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we do here on this show, What's Up Africa. So the best is yet to come, and the sun we know shall rise again. Dr. Agbesi, my heartfelt appreciation goes to you for coming to our show.
Thank you.
I also give a big shout out, and I think you will join me in doing so, to our producer, Malik Sa, who's always working incredibly hard to make sure that the program runs smoothly from start to finish. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
C'est encore Yves Kenao, c'est toujours Yves Kenao qui revient. Cette fois-ci, pour vous dire que Tempo Afrique TV vous offre plus de 4000 chaînes de télévision. Les chaînes européennes, les chaînes américaines, les chaînes asiatiques, les chaînes africaines. à un prix imbattable. À un prix imbattable. Tenez-vous bien. $185 pour 12 mois, inclut le box. Alors, où est-ce que vous pouvez trouver mieux que ça si ce n'est pas sur Tempo Afrique TV? Mesdames, messieurs, appelez seulement le 612 804 0295 et vous serez servi. Vous serez agréablement surpris de voir plus de 4000 chaînes de télévision rouler sur votre écran comme ça et vous choisissez laquelle vous voulez. Alors mesdames, n'hésitez pas. N'hésitez surtout pas et ne faites pas compter. Prenez votre téléphone, prenez-le tout de suite et appelez le 612, le 804, le 02 95. Nous sommes là, ici à Tempo TV, pour rendre votre vie simple et agréable. Alors, saisissez l'occasion. Donc, $185 pour toute une année, pour 12 mois, inclus le box. Quoi de mieux que ça?
Du nouveau à Minneapolis, Tempo Afrique Travel. Vous voulez voyager? Achetez vos billets d'avion à l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, pas de problème de connexion, pas de problème de transfert de vol. Avec l'agent de voyage Tempo Afrique Travel, c'est le voyage en toute tranquillité, en toute beauté, de votre maison jusqu'à votre destination. Votre satisfaction est notre plaisir.